I'm coming at you with this slightly frightening look, and we are going to go through, oh, I don't even know how many. I have them all here in front of me. Literally 4 piles of eyeshadow palettes. Some of these are face palettes, and I'm gonna let you know my thoughts on them and who I think they are for. Some of these I've tried more than others. I will be honest, some of these I've tried quite a lot, and some of these I've only tried once or twice. But this is not gonna be my final review. I will try them out more, and I will do, like I always do, like a yearly roundup with all the palettes. I always try to sneak in like me trying palettes throughout the entire year when I'm filming, when I'm doing looks outside of YouTube. So I will have a more rounded review then. But honestly, they were quite literally piling up in my house, and I was like, I need to just get my thoughts out to you and let you know, what do I think about these? Who do I think that these could be for? Show you some swatches, give you some thoughts, and hopefully this video can be a little bit helpful to you. If you're wondering about anything that I'm mentioning in this video, everything will be down in the description box in the order that I mentioned them in this video, in case you want to see what is she talking about, where can I find it. I also will have some affiliate links and affiliate codes with some of these brands. If you do use my codes or links, I do earn a small commission. This video is not sponsored. Some of these palettes have been sent to me in PR, and some of them I bought myself. I will try and let you know as we go through which is which, but again, you can always check the description box. If I ever received anything in PR, I always put a little star behind it so that you know that this is something that I got in PR. But okay, how should I do this? I think I'm just gonna start with no real rhyme or reason, and I will end with the palette that, I don't want to say surprised me the most, but the palette that I think, at the grand scheme of things, I will get the most use out of. Out of all of these palettes that you're seeing here, the palette that I think I will rank the highest of them at the end of the year. How about we do that? Okay, let's start with a palette that I've actually only used twice, and this is the ColourPop and Pokemon palette. I will not know all of these prices by heart, but I will try and put that in the description box too, like what are the prices of these palettes, together with like links and codes. This is on the slightly more affordable side. ColourPop is an affordable brand. You can find this at Ulta, you can find this at ColourPop, and you can use a code at ColourPop and get the price down even more. I will say, if you're looking for an affordable rainbow palette, you just want to add some colorful shades for the summer. Maybe you just want to play with some pops here. There are some interesting textures in here. There's a couple of pressed glitters in here, and while I will say ColourPop's pressed glitter formula is at least one of the better ones, I don't personally love that. But the 2 looks that I have done, I've really been enjoying what I've done with it. And I will say there are some a little bit more almost like, I don't want to say unexpected things in here, but this one is a pressed glitter, but it's the yellow with a slight pink duochrome. This one is almost like a chocolatey brown with like a red sheen to it. It's really interesting. This dark green matte worked really good on the eyes. Overall, I just think they did a fairly decent job with the rainbow palette. Is this the best rainbow palette in the world? No. But if you were maybe not like a colorful eyeshadow fiend, you don't have a lot of colors, or maybe you're just a Pokemon fan, I can tell you this is a good palette. It's not the best palette in my collection. It is a good palette, but not my favorite colorful palette and not my favorite rainbow palette. But at least you're not getting scammed. Sometimes I feel like with like affordable makeup, with drugstore makeup, especially when it comes to eyeshadows, yes, they're affordable, but they're also awful. This isn't awful. This is a good palette. Let's then talk about the palette that I have on my eyes. I did not film this look. Honestly, I just wanted to sit down and do my makeup for me. I wanted to do a look for me, something that I liked, something that I wanted to do. And I did use a rainbow palette that I've been really enjoying. And this is the Blend Bunny and Ellis collaboration. I will say, I mean, nobody's traveling with this. We're not, unless we're like, you know, traveling on those like, you know, the big LV trunks that you can literally like step into. Nobody's traveling with this. But with that being said, the quality of this one is really good. I'm using some of the peaches and reds over here, and then I'm using this beautiful green here, and I'm also using the white and a white eyeliner, and I'm using a shimmer shadow from another that I will show you in a bit. This is what I will say about this one. If you own a rainbow palette from Blend Bunny, I think that when it comes to this selection, the lower 2 rows and even the turquoise over here, these there's not a lot of new things added. I'm sure they're not dupes. I'm sure they're different, but I will say when it comes to these rows, I feel like Shania Twain. The color selections doesn't impress me that much. The greens, the yellows, and the oranges, those have a very unexpected twist and undertone to them, to the point that I kind of wish it would just them. Because that is a very interesting, there are some really interesting undertones in here. There's some super interesting undertones over here, and the greens are so fun. So I kind of in a way almost wish that the palette was that. I understand why they did this palette. I think the quality is really good. One thing that I did notice both with using it and with swatching it is that some shades are a little bit more hard pressed than I am used to Blend Bunny being. I could use them with a brush, but it's just, they were a little bit different. They didn't perform badly on the eyes, they just felt a little different. Same, some of the shades were a bit more loosely pressed than what I'm used to with Blend Bunny. Again, nothing hard working with them, especially like I'm using a dark red here. That one, when I touch it, it literally floofs up in the pan. Makes it a little hard to work with. Is it a bad shadow? No, I just noticed that a couple of them were just a smidgen different. I still think that this is a great palette, but this will not be my favorite palette solely because I feel like this is one of those I want everything. I feel like a little bit of like creativity is out the window when you're able to put in everything in the palette. With that being said, the yellow, the green, and the orange row, those are delightful, and I will definitely be dipping into those again. They're absolutely stunning, and I'm very, very impressed with especially those three rows. I also wanted to say I am wearing the pink blush palette and the pink highlighter on my cheeks. They're very nice. The blushes from Blend Bunny are very pigmented. If you do not love a pigmented matte blush, they are not for you. The highlighter is really beautiful, but it is a sparkly pink. Again, if you don't like a sparkly highlighter, it will not be for you. With that being said, I mean, it looks beautiful. There's everything here. Like, it looks super fierce, super fun. I just think that you have to, I don't want to say like you have to be a certain kind of person. That's not what I'm trying to say. Unless you look at this and you're like, oh, this is everything. I think that when you buy it, you might be a little overwhelmed if you don't look at this and you're already in love. I don't think that this, when you see it in real life, will convince you in a way that, I'm going to be honest, some of these other palettes might. What you see is what you get. It's a all matte palette with a row of shimmers. Beautiful, but don't think it's gonna convince you if you buy it that you're like all of a sudden gonna be into big rainbow palettes if you aren't already. I hope I'm making sense. I should have had a coffee before this. Here is the Nueva Vida, which is the Gourmande Girls and Steph's Beauty Stash palette. This one has some neons in it. I think you can see when I pull it away, you can see that there are two neons in here. I'm actually going to a neon themed party. Now I'm trying to think, when are you seeing this? I might already have been to it actually when you're watching this, and I'm thinking I might bring this one, or I might bring one of my palettes that also has some neons in it. But I just think that this is a really fun palette. I really like the color selection of this one. It is a very fun and unique colorful palette. If you like colorful shades, it has matte ones, it has shimmer ones, it has a really nice satin in here. There are some duochromes in here. It goes from light to dark. There are variations in here, and I will say, as someone who, I mean, you can tell, as someone who loves colors, I think this is a really fun and unique color story. If you're mostly into neutrals, maybe this one isn't for you. I'm just letting you know right now. Maybe this isn't the easiest palette to mix with neutrals, especially if you want to use more than one shade at a time. I think that this palette for someone that already likes colorful shadows and are just looking for new, fresh color story that they might not already have. If you are into neutrals though, this is the Cool Neutrals by Sigma. This one is inspired, there's a beautiful plastic on the inside. I've actually said this before, but Sigma is one of the few brands where I usually save this plastic that goes inside because they usually make really beautiful ones. There's also a brush in here. Sigma brushes are really beautiful. This is the Cool Neutrals palette. It is inspired by Agate from the owner's home country of Brazil. I will say, I think the owner sees cool tones the way that I do, which is like, I like cool tones, but especially mixed with warm tones. That is how she explained this palette. She said she likes neutrals, but it's similar coloring to me. She's more warm tone in her skin tone, so a full cool tone palette scares her. Listen, I hear you. I love mixing cool tones with warm tones. I think she should have named it something else because a lot of people got really hung up on the name Cool Neutrals. I will say that like these are not all cool tones. I would say that this is a half maybe 2/3, like, because they're leaning very cool and very muted, but there is a very warmth over in this corner right here. I think this palette is beautiful. The quality is still really stunning. Sigma does tell us that they have upped the quality of the shimmers even more, which I think is very visible in this palette. If you want a cool tone palette, but not a full cool tone palette like me, I like cool leaning shadows, but I don't do full grays. You might enjoy this one. If you're looking for a cool tone palette that is like more grays, this one won't be for you. And I kind of think, just looking back at it, I kind of think that they should have kind of seen it coming, that people would look at this and be like, what do you mean cool neutrals? I think they should have named it, I don't even know what. What do you think they should have named it? Because it is a beautiful palette. Does it live up to cool neutrals? Maybe not 100%. Because especially in this day and age, when people want like the grays, which, I mean, me personally, I don't want that. I don't want the grays. I much prefer this, but yeah, let me know your thoughts about this. Let me know in the comments. What would you have named this palette if you had free reins? Speaking of palettes, this is really funny actually. Let me take this one after, because a lot of people said when they saw this one coming, this one reminds them of that palette from Sigma, just more shades. It's like, and I agree, there is like some warm tones over here. There are some more coppery tones, and cool tones, but it's all like very muted except these two rows here. The very shiny background is extremely, like, it's hard sometimes to like truly see what a palette looks like when the background is like this shiny. It's like, it's like all over the place. My dog is slaying in the most peculiar way. Let me see if I can catch this, because there's no way that this is comfortable. You don't get to tell me that this is comfortable. This angle right here. Are you truly comfortable? Are you okay, baby? Are you truly comfortable? Oh my God. Okay, I'll leave you to it. Anyways, back to this palette and not the weird sleeping pattern of my dog. I think the quality of this palette is the good ColourPop quality. I think there's 2 pressed glitters here, or not necessarily pressed glitters. It's more the foiled eyeshadow with glitter particles in it that makes them super sparkly and glittery. I don't think ColourPop has really, and probably with the price point that they're at, they're more affordable. They haven't really, as of late, they did that a while and then they stopped. You know, that metallic formula that has a lot of sparkles in it? It feels like instead they're just doing metallics with like more glitters in them. And I wish they would be more sparkly than glittery. But do you agree with me on the difference between sparkly and just glitter? But I do think this is a good palette if you love neutrals, if you want the mix between cool tones and warm tones. Do I need a big palette like this? No, for me, the Sigma palette is more than enough. More than enough. I love things being a little bit more edited down, and sometimes with these big palettes, I always look at them and I'm like, we could have swapped. One row could have disappeared. With that being said, I know a bunch of you love the big palettes from ColourPop. They're usually good quality, fairly affordable for the amount of shades that you get, and you really seem to love them. I prefer the 12 pan palettes or the 9 pan palettes on ColourPop, but I know a bunch of you really love them. And if you look at this color story and you're like, this could be for me, this is a good quality. It's a good quality palette. I think, I'm not sure now that I'm saying it if they ever released this at Ulta, but you can still get it at ColourPop, of course. Speaking of the smaller palettes from ColourPop, this is the collaboration that they did with Beauty and the Beast. I really like this packaging. I like the mix of the soft matte with the metallic. I like that they have a scene from the movie, and I like that the scene they picked from the movie pretty much represents the inside of the palette with the blue and the more creamy yellows. Is it exactly the color of her dress? Maybe not, but I still like that there's a bunch of yellows in here. There is one of those more sparkly, glittery shades, but it's actually a really pretty one. And I think what I really like about this palette is that they did some rosy tones, they did some neutrals, some yellows, some blues, but there are 2 blues. This is a matte with glitter and the like glitter particles encapsulated in it, and there's a shimmer, so technically you can do an all like blue look with a matte and a shimmer if you want to. You can go a little bit more rosy, or you can go just full on neutral, or you can lean a little yellow. I think that this color story, in opposite to the Snow White palette that they did, they actually was able to keep it true to the coloring of the movie, but still make it a color story that you can actually work with. That Snow White palette, it left a lot to be desired. This one has a nice color story, and I myself love brown with yellow, so I do really like this. If you like brown with yellow though, unless you love Beauty and the Beast and you want the Beauty and the Beast palette, if you love brown with yellow, I recommend the C3PO palette. I don't know if they still have that one, but that one is a really good 9-pan palette. Great quality, great color story, and it's that like golden brown yellows that is just a very well thought out color story that also happens to be Star Wars. I mean, what's to be sad about? This one, again, I've only used this once. I quite recently got this into my collection, but I did want to mention this one. This is the Cradled in Ice by Fantasy Cosmetica. This one recently released, and I think that this is what happens when like indie brands do the neutral palette with a pop of blue. They just do a half neutral palette, a half blue palette with a bunch of duochromes, and they just make a great gradient where you have a pop of pink that works with all of this. I did a look, I think I did a look for, oh, it should be live actually. I will see if I can link any corresponding videos down below. Otherwise, you can always go back to my channel and just search and just find some looks. Because quite recently that I put up a look with this one where I used basically all the mattes. Really beautiful quality. Again, this is the color story. If you like cool tone neutrals, but not grays, it is like more rosy cool tone taupes, pop of pink, blues, and it is 3 blues. You can do inner corner, you can do crease, you can deepen up. I just think that this is a very well thought out color story with really good quality, and I appreciate that you can do all neutral, you can do all blue, but they also all of them work together, and I think this is a smart color story. This is like, again, the neutral, half colorful palette that I think is very well made, and it's dragon themed. What's not to like? Speaking of neutral palettes that has a little bit more of a twist to them, this is DJ's signature, the Ultimate Cappuccino palette. I keep calling it the Cappuccino palette, but there's the ultimate. She decided to do a neutral palette with a twist, and these are more vibrant and like deeper colors, and the owner of Disney's signature is a black woman, and she wanted something that really showed up on her. And I will say these are beautiful. The shadows down here, what I really like about the shadows down here is that there are duochrome, and there are some more classic shimmer, and then there is this super metallic high shine like ET phone home kind of a shade that's just really, really incredible. And you can go a little warm, you can go a little neutral. There's even like a green here. There's a matte inner corner highlight. I like this color story. And for me, this is something that I like. 2/3 matte, 1/3 shimmer. That is a perfect ratio for me. And you know what? I really like what she's done, and the packaging is actually even better than they've been before. This is a brand that I am keeping my eye on. I think that everything she releases is just even better, and I'm just so excited to see where this brand will be going, because I really think she's onto something, and I'm so happy that she's back. Oh, here's another ColourPop palette. This is the So Elemental palette. I have almost like, I want to say I have a bet with myself, but like honestly, I have a bet with myself this year, and that is that I am going to review everything from ColourPop this year. Everything that they release, every palette, every collection, every new product I'm gonna release. So I bought this one myself, the So Elemental palette. I thought that this was gonna be a gray palette with a blue undertone. This is a blue palette with a gray undertone. This is way more blue than I thought it was going to be, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. So if you are looking for a blue palette, or you're looking to incorporate some blues into your collection, but you sometimes think that blues are leaning a little bit too turquoise, maybe, you know, a little bit too yellow leaning, or they're just too bright and too like bam in your face, like sky blue. This is a more muted blue color story that's definitely cool tone, and honestly I was very impressed with this one. This is a blue iridescent color. Again, is this the best blue palette in my collection? No, but it is very affordable, and it's still a good palette. If you're looking for the best blues, this wouldn't be it. But if you are looking to just try some blues and you wanted something that's a little muted and you don't want to spend too much money on it, you're getting a good palette. I have a couple of Adept things here we can take as well. This is the Cyborg Choir. This is the colorful palette that they came out with before Amy's collab. This one is a very typical Adept palette because it has 1 row of mattes. Again, not the ratio that I like, but Adept is known for their shimmers, so makes sense for their customer. And there are 2 rows of shimmers, and these are like, I think all of them, or at least almost all of them, there's a couple that's not, are like the holographic multichromes or the holographic duochromes. Very, very impressive. I love the color story that's going on here with the yellow and the berry and then some like more muted shades in between. I just wish that Adept would get their, like, I don't know, I just wish Adept would love mattes as much as I do. At least a 50-50, at least a 50-50 split, that would make me happy. But I love that there's a light one. I love that there is a super dark one. There's just a variety in this one, and I feel like we're almost there. I just wish that we would spend as much time with the mattes as the shimmers, because for me, no look is complete without mattes, but I still think that this is one of the more unique color stories that I've tried from Adept, and I really do enjoy this palette. Again, if you are looking for something that is a unique color story, and you're looking for something that is not the typical color story, but you want it to be special shade leaning, mattes are just, they're just there as an ad hoc for you, you might really, really enjoy this one. If you are more like me, that you are building every look around mattes, maybe this one is the perfect one for you. But if you're more into shimmers and you are really dying to try those new holographic things that are out on the market, this one has a bunch of those. And then we have the two palettes that Amy came out with her collaboration together with Adept. So this is the Amy Loves Makeup collab with Adept, and the palette, this one has more matte. She's calling this a cool toned lover's dream, and I do agree, there's a bunch of cool tones in here. There are some blue leanings, some like more almost like a lilac and pink. This isn't my perfect color story. For me, I love something that's warm. I love yellows, I love oranges. But if you've ever seen me and Amy together, we've actually met a couple of times, we've filmed together. She is fair cool toned and I am a light medium warm tone. So we have very different coloring, so clearly we like different things. But this one has I think almost 50-50 mattes and shimmers. That's a little better of a ratio for me. There's like one extra matte, I think. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe not. Maybe there's actually, she just switched them around and made me think there's an extra matte. Maybe not. Again, for me, I would have liked a light matte in this one for this to be like an all-in-one palette for me. But I have filmed two different looks with this one, and I think I reached into a light matte in both of them. I mean, it's not that hard. If you love cool tones, if you love more neutrals, but you want to have a twist to it, you want to have something that's a little bit different than what you could find at like Sephora or at Ulta, this could be the one. I know that sometimes indie palettes have a tendency to become a little bit more colorful, and it's usually because it's made by people that just almost grew tired of mainstream makeup, and they're like, where's the fun makeup, where's the colorful makeup? And if you are into color, definitely you can find so much at indie brands that could really suit you. If you're into neutrals, there are still things for you here, like this one, and I've showed you a couple of other things as well, but usually they are a little bit more colorful, and it's usually because you most of the time can't really find that at a really good quality with mainstream brands. She also did do a face palette, same here. This is cool toned, this is pink leaning. I've used this a couple of times and I think it works great. It's just not the right colors for me. It is not the right colors for me, but like, I don't know if you can see that I'm like a little warm leaning, but you can probably see that this pink is just not the right shade for me. Again, that's perfectly fine. There are people out there, they're gonna look at this and they're like, this is perfect. There's one lighter one, there's one a deeper one. This one does really work on me. And it's a little bit more warmer as well. This shade just, it will never be for me. I've really tried. It's just not for me. There is a very blinding highlighter, and then there is a slightly darker, almost pink. It has a pink base, and it is like almost wet sparkly. Very high intensity on the cheeks. I am used to really blinding highlighters, but I put that on and even I was surprised. You know, I gave it the influencer O face, like, because I was like, ooh, this is pigmented. Me and my husband wanted to try this one that was the mojito flavored. It tastes a little bit like tooth floss, and I'm like, you know when you're at the dentist and they're brushing your teeth and then they're telling you to like rinse and spit it out? This is me not spitting it out. And yet I keep drinking. Wow, I'm gross. Welcome to my channel. This is the Lethal, I keep forgetting, Lethal Cosmetics something. I don't know why they didn't put the name on it on here. I think it's called something Grove. I keep forgetting. Something Grove. We'll put the name here. My editor will put the name here. Thank you, Rachel, for being so kind when I couldn't, like, I don't know why they didn't put the name on the palette. Something Grove. Let's not linger. This is what it looks like. I think, and this is what I'm gonna say, I think that this palette is more fun than it looks with this background. This background is not the right background for this palette because the background has this like oil slick holographic, and it's almost like as dark as some of the darker shades, but not the right undertone. It's making all the shades look a little muted. It's making all the shades look a little off. And I know when I opened this palette, I was like, it looked a little like almost ashy, and I don't feel like that when I swatch it. I think the background is the wrong background for this palette. I think they should have picked something else. Maybe honestly a black with the oil slick. There's something about the background that I don't think puts this palette the best, but I think this is a great color story for spring. Now we're getting into summer, but if you like the idea, and let me actually show a palette afterwards. If you like the idea of pinks and greens, but some of the other palettes that you have seen have just been too much, this is a muted pinks and greens for someone who feels more themselves in neutrals, but still want to experiment. This is a pink and greens for neutral lovers. That's what I will say. Let's talk about the other pink and green then. That is for people who love drama. I love Bella Beauté Bar. They came into my life like a whirlwind, and I've never looked back. Their quality is so beautiful. I've fallen in love with them. They're just, look at this pink green. This, I mean, you can see I'm like a drag queen. I love bright, bold, saturated, really lovely colors like this. It goes from really light to really like bold and deep. There's shimmers, there's matte. It's matte heavy. This one also has some like, oh my god, did I lose something down my cleavage? That was, let's hope it's not a bug. This one has duochromes, it has multichromes. It does have some really, really interesting textures. And this, did I poke my nail in it? I did. The disadvantage of having claws. Even this neutral up here is a neutral, almost like a cool tone caramel champagne with holographic shimmer in it. So even the neutral is a special shade. This is for the person that is just tired of the mundane palettes. This is for someone who loves colors. This is for someone who loves bright, bold, pigmented mattes that have like a little give to them. They have like a little substance to them. They build on each other. This is just a beautiful palette. I think this is stunning. This is actually one of my favorites in this whole, like, that we're going to be showing here. I actually did a look with the neutral row as well that I have on Instagram. Hopefully I've posted that as this video is going up. But I love this palette. The only thing that's not perfect with this palette is the sheer size of it. It is too big. If this could have been this size, just a smidgen smaller, I would have loved it even more. Bella Beauté Bar makes amazing palettes, but sometimes they could do with a little editing down. I do prefer their smaller palettes more than the bigger ones. They do have some smaller ones as well, and they're also great quality. Let's talk about the palette that I pulled up then. This is the Glaminatrix Pretty in Pastel palette, and this is a pastel. Oh my god, I've had a casualty. Did I put the, oh my god. Wait, hold, let me see if I can press this one down. I've had a casualty. Okay, here we go. Let's see, let's hope I don't get this in my corner. You can see that I have a casualty and some of the oil have seeped out. This is a pastel palette that has two rows of more slightly pastel-y leaning metallics. I say slightly because this green is definitely not pastel. It has a row of pastels for light skins. It has a row of pastels for darker skins, and then it has a row of deepening up shades. If you like the idea of pastels, but you want to have an all-encompassing palette where you can use all of it together, this is definitely that. Who this is for, I will say, again, if you love pastels, but you are tired of getting those pastel palettes that just have just palettes and you have to mix them with something. If you love pastels, but you still want to do just one palette, this could be the one for you. And also, I will say, Glaminatrix is an Australian brand. So if you're living in Australia, or if you're living in a country where shopping from Australia is extremely easy compared to shopping from the US, definitely check out Glaminatrix. They have amazing quality and they have so many different palettes. This one might be for you. Then we have Nomad Cosmetics Iceland Wild Atlantic Way. This one is a fussy palette, and Nomad Cosmetics is a destination-based brand, and this is definitely if you love greens. If you love greens and you just want to have a couple of accompanied like shades, there are some neutrals down here. There is some leaning a little bit more turquoise over here, but this is a green palette. It goes from light, it goes from dark, and there's some grassy greens here. I really enjoy this palette, but if you don't like greens, you're not gonna enjoy this one. Let's be honest. I do wish that one of the shimmers had been more of an iridescent green topper. I think that that would have really worked with this palette, but overall, I'm very excited that they came up with something that is this green leaning and like so like based around the destination with the, I think it's the cliffs of Moher. I think it's the cliffs of, is it Moher? Moher? I think that's what it's called. And then all the names are apparently very appropriate for Ireland. I saw an Irish creator pronouncing all of the names and saying the backstory behind them. So that's really cool as well. So it also, like, if you have a love of Ireland or if you're Irish, this palette apparently is pretty spot on with the names and the theming and stuff like that. Okay, this is a palette where I'm gonna be like, who is this for? Only if you're a die-hard Kiss fan. This is Glamlight and Kiss, the rock and roll all night and party every day palette. Rock and roll all night and party every day. Apparently, I'm not a Kiss fan. I don't know enough about Kiss, I will say, but this palette, this is decent, but not amazing. Glamlight has done better quality than this, and they've even done this color story before, but with better quality. I can tell, I love Glamlight. I have been reviewing Glamlight from way before they became popular, when they were just a small brand and they were like releasing stuff that people didn't always love, let's say. So what I will say with this palette is, unless you are a die-hard Kiss fan, Glamlight has done way better than this. Way better than this. The Garfield palette is way better. The Betty Boop palette is way better. The Rick and Morty palette is way better. If you're looking for astonishing quality, like bang for your buck, those are way better than this one. I'm telling you right now, the Chucky palette, amazing quality. This is decent. Who is this for? If you're a Kiss fan. That's who this is for. Otherwise, honestly, I would steer you in another direction with Glamlight. They have done so much better than this. This is the Spring Magic palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. I love Unearthly Cosmetics. It's also a brand that I've been reviewing for quite some time. And I love how they are like bringing this gothic aesthetic even to a spring palette. For the owner Amanda, it is Halloween every day. So if you're that person, I definitely think that this palette could be for you. Oh, this is actually the blush palette. Let me go and get the eyeshadow palette. This is glowy blushes. If you love glowy blushes, and especially if you have a hard time finding glowy blushes for a medium to a deeper skin tone, these will work on darker skin tones as well. So especially if you're looking for shimmery, punchy, colorful shades, and you sometimes have a hard time finding options for your skin tone, you have a lot here. These are beautiful quality. I don't always go for a palette when it comes to blushes. I prefer singles or duos. If you love a blush palette, these are stunning. They're very shimmery though, and they're pigmented. I'm just letting you know. Let me go get the palette. I have it here somewhere in this mess. Found it. Here it is, the Spring Magic. Same here, it is a similar style, and this is the eyeshadow palette. This is a colorful palette that has a lot of, this is what I meant when I said not glittery, sparkly. If you love sparkly metallics, this truly is sparkly metallics. You have greens, you have turquoises and pinks and some neutrals. There is a matte white. I love when palettes have a matte white. I'm wearing a matte white today. It's one of the things that I love wearing in a makeup look. And I think this matte white really brings it into making those more flirty, summery looks where you can use white as a contrast instead of black. This is a more colorful palette. Again, I don't think that you will love this unless you actually like color. With that being said, this is like more a neutrally rosy lower part, but this is a pretty bright thing. If you love sparkly metallics though, this one has that and it is stunning. Let's do the Moon Shroom collection by Lunar Beauty. They came up with a little highlighter quad, and I will say quality is amazing. If you love super blinding wet cheeks 2017 highlighters, this is awesome quality. The way that these sit on the cheeks and really just give you that glass cheek. If you love a blinding highlighter, don't miss out on this one. It's really stunning. When it comes to the eyeshadow palette, I think that this is one of, first of all, packaging is so cute and so different and so fun. And I feel like sometimes when it comes to packaging, I just want something that's a little different. I've seen it all, but like not to be like melodramatic, but I have seen so much at this point. This I haven't seen. I haven't seen this. So I'm excited about that. And the inside is really interesting. If you missed out on the Raw Beauty Christie and ColourPop collection, in the video where I used this one, I did show you comparisons between those. And I did say that yes, this is in spirit pretty similar to that one. I prefer the shimmers from Lunar Beauty over the ones in the ColourPop palette. Those were not my favorite. And this one also has a little bit of a purple corner down here that I've actually done a look with. Really, really beautiful. And I overall, again, I told you, I love warm tones. I love yellows. I love mustards. I love these 70s colors. Love 70s colors. Clothing, eyeshadow, home decor. I just literally bought an orange 70s like duvet set. Love it. So if you love warm colors like me, if you love the bridge between neutrals and colors, this is the one for you. You can go neutral, you can go colorful, you can go super yummy. The yellows, you just have my heart. So I think this is a great palette if you like colors and you like neutrals, but you don't necessarily want those super bright in your face like green. You want something that's maybe a little bit more muted green, but still not gray or like straight up brown. It's like a happy middle. Let's talk about the singles from Oden's Eye because they did release new singles. I think these are called the Jewel Shine collection. They had a round one, I think in January of last year, and this is round two. First of all, the magnetic palettes are beautiful and you can buy these separately, and they did release some mattes this time. And if you are looking for matte singles and you love the Oden's Eye normal matte formula, I think that this is the same formula. I've used them a couple of times. They're really beautiful. I love Oden's Eye mattes. It's a formula that I really like working with. I feel very comfortable with. I know how to work with it to make it look the way that I want to. I think it's easy to work with and it fits my makeup application. And if you like singles, I can tell you that this is the same matte formula that I know and love. And they also released a bigger palette. Again, so pretty. And they released a bunch of shimmers and a bunch of more like multi-chromes. I did a full video swatching all of these, showing you like what they look like in different lights, showing the shifts and stuff. Again, I think these are really beautiful. There's a couple of these that are a little bit more creamy, almost similar to what Adept sometimes have in their shadows, that can almost be so creamy that you're like, is this a cream or is it a powder? I think there's like, I want to say maybe 3. Let's keep looking at them now. I think it was like this one, and this one, if I'm not totally mistaken, but I do point them out in the video which was which. I've used this quite a lot, and today I'm actually using this shadow down here, and that's what I'm using on my lid. It is that one that had the, I said it was like a Christmas bauble in my video. It has like brown, let me see if I can scoop it up. It has like almost like red, green, and bronze shimmers on a bronze base, and sir, and that is what I have on my lid. Oh, Christina from Gourmande Girls is calling me. I think she's here. Hold. This one is Matthew. Matthew. That's the shade that I have. I think it's absolutely stunning. If you love shimmers, if you love multi-chromes, if you love special shades, I definitely think that a lot of these are really, really exciting. Again, I will let you know my favorites in the video where I'm swatching all of them. Unless you are a die-hard fan like that for singles, you don't need singles like this. Oden's Eye usually puts 1 or 2 special shades in every palette that they have. And if you're like me and you prefer getting a full coordinated, like edited palette for you. I would say this collection, this is for people who prefer singles over palettes. I think that overall, this is the same quality as they have in their palettes. So if you prefer palettes, you don't need to get these. I'm telling you right now, just wait for a palette, get a palette instead. But if you prefer singles, I think that overall, they're the same quality as they have in the palettes, except I think it was like 2, 3, 4 different ones that was like a little bit more creamy than I prefer. Again, check the video if you want to see exactly which ones those were. Look, Christina's here!
Where do I look?
It's here. How do you like my setup?
It's amazing.
Oh my god, you're so obnoxious. Chaos.
It's filming?
It's filming all the time.
Okay, so hi. So I'll see you in a few days. We're planning a trip somewhere. I don't know if we're
going somewhere. Yes,
I'm so embarrassed that I look like this. And
she looks amazing. Tell her in the comments she looks amazing. So this is the owner of Gourmande Girls. I just talked about your palette actually. And we are planning a trip. So she's here. We're going to book. I'm just going to finish up. I have 3 more palettes.
So I'm going to go play with the dogs while she does that. And I'm going to look at some hotels.
Oh my god, you're so loud, baby.
Maybe you'll see a vlog from our trip in a few months. Okay, bye!
In a few months, in like a year. She's the dog whisperer. Okay, let's end this with another brand that truly just took me by storm, and that is Ensley Rain. I have 3 palettes from Ensley Rain here. This is the latest palette from them, and this is the Cosmic Dreamer palette. This, I think this is one of the first palettes that they came up with, and they reworked it, and they reworked the original artwork that they had on this palette, and now the palette looks like this. A lot of these palettes, you can see there are little divots where you can like rearrange them. I know for some people, it is super important that palettes are magnetic. For me, I will never rearrange a palette. I will never rearrange a palette. I want them exactly the way that they are. Even sometimes when I say, you hear me say, I wish this palette had that, I will still never rearrange them. I want them to be the way that the brand, to be the way that the collaborator arranged them for me. But I will say, I think the color story of this one is good, but not my favorite. The quality is amazing. But there's something about this color story. Again, this is a reworked palette from like some years back, and there's something about this color story that makes me think a few years back. There's nothing wrong with it, but I definitely prefer other things from Ensley Rain. Quality is beautiful. If you look at this palette and you're like, wow, that is stunning, quality is beautiful. Then we have Flower Moon. Again, Ensley Rain's formula just is something else. Incredible mattes, incredible shimmers. It's a little bit more of an expensive brand. You can use a code off and like code and get some money off on the brand. This one, amazing quality. I will say with this one, the way that I said with Adept, mattes, I prefer these mattes over the Adept. I don't know if you're supposed to say that. People are going to show with pitchforks and like torches outside, but I my personal opinion, prefer the mattes from Ensley Rain over the mattes of Adept. Depth matte are not bad, these are spectacular. I do think you have a lot of mattes to choose from, but this one is 2/3 shimmer, 1/3 matte. If you are more a shimmer girl than you are a matte girl, these shimmers are incredible, especially these up here. You know, I love a nice clear sky blue. Very stunning color combo. If you're more into shimmers than you are into mattes, this is incredible quality. Now we're down to the last palette. This is the one that I can tell you already. It's gonna be, is this my favorite palette from Ensley Rain? I don't know. They reworked the Strawberry Moon palette. They reworked it and made it even better, and they also rearranged the palette. They added more mattes, and they also took away some of the shades that were a little bit too similar to each other. And this palette is just stunning. It has some warm shades, it has some striking colors that I really love. The shimmers are incredible. I love the variation of this palette. This palette just makes me really happy, and this palette has a couple of shades that I know that I am going to be reaching into to be able to wear again and again and again. This shimmer down here, the really bright coral, is probably one of the most beautiful shimmers in my collection. I am blown away by this palette. And you always ask me, what is my favorite palette from Ensley Rain? And I usually say Lands of Enchantment, but I think it's gotten a little bit of competition. If you like the same kind of shades that I do, I think you will really love this one. I love the mattes, I love the shimmers, I love the choices that have been made with the different colors that are in here. There is a really light matte in here that you can use as a inner corner if you want to. I just think that this palette is stunning. I don't know what else to say. It is a beautiful palette and I absolutely love it. I'm gonna have to use this one even more to find out which is my actual favorite. But this one, it's really good. I hope this video was somewhat helpful and that I was able to go through some of the indie releases and talk to you about them and tell you which ones are my actual favorites, because there is so much out there. And right now, indie brands, and I will say, as a person who reviews indie brands, even I get overwhelmed. There is a lot of things going on right now, and I'm just hoping that I can just help you find the one for you, or maybe help you realize that you didn't need any of this. Maybe you saw these swatches and you're like, wait, I already own this. I don't want any of it. And if I help you with that, I'm happy with that too, because we're not all out here to buy new makeup. Some of us are just looking at the new releases, realizing we didn't need any of it. And if I can help with that, that makes me happy too. I hope you're having a great day. Don't forget to subscribe if you are not, and I will see you soon in a new video. Bye!